Hey everyone, welcome to the Construction Marketers Podcast, where we teach you how to create the best content in construction. I'm your host, Jonathan Core, and today we're chatting with Dante Nino. Dante is the managing partner at Tiello, an AEC recruiting firm, and a very active LinkedIn content creator. Welcome to the pod, Dante.
Thanks for having me, Jonathan.
Yeah, for sure. So I've seen your content for some time now, and obviously love the content that you've been creating. I know that it's you've liked my content too. So we've from afar we've supported each other's content, which is awesome, especially too within the industry. Just supporting any other creators that are adding value within the industry. But for those listeners that may have never heard of you or don't follow you or don't see your content on a regular basis the same way I would. I'm just curious, would you mind sharing specifically how you landed in construction and eventually just started Tiello?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I grew up in the construction industry. My family owns a custom home building business. They're a GC out in Los Angeles, and we work on high-end custom homes. I did that all growing up as a teenage, working in the summers, and I just fell in love with it. Now with the family business, there comes a lot of problems, and I knew that I didn't want to do that or take over the company. So I decided to go the college route and get a degree in business. And after I graduated college, I landed in a job in recruiting, and I had no idea what recruiting was about. What they do, how they get paid, but they put me in the commercial and construction side, and I easily fell in love with it. I knew how to talk to people. I knew how to work with individuals. I've been in the trades myself, so it just made it a lot easier. Then after a few years of doing that, I realized that there was a big problem in the industry where recruiting companies didn't were recruiting for professionals, but they didn't really necessarily have the experience that what they were looking for. So, me and my business partner Simon decided to start our own recruitment company and start bringing in professionals that have that construction industry and teach them the recruiting side. So, we did that for a couple of years. And our first few hires were project managers. They were anyone that had been in the trades that has that we could teach that recruiting background, and it just went well. Our clients loved that we knew what we were talking about, and we just kind of took off from there. Now we're close to 15 people and 5 years in. So we started back in 2019.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So I'm just curious, though, like, so you started 2019. I mean, that's like, do you remember what month of the year you started in when you went
It was
full in?
uh, February.
February. Okay, so it was early 2019. So about a year out from that was the pandemic, and so obviously that kind of threw things in a whirlwind from there. So I'm just curious, maybe that first season, whether it was that first quarter, a few quarters, or year or years. Um, Before we get into the content piece, because I definitely think that hearing you in a different podcast, you shared how that kind of helped open the door for that. But I'm just curious, what were the avenues that you were able to like actually land the clients that you were initially starting off to work with for Tiello?
Yeah, I mean, initially we did the traditional route with what we knew. It's cold calling
Mm.
companies, trying to get the word out, and emails, follow ups, to show up in person as well too. Prior to COVID, which was more face to face. Construction is always an old industry as well too. They want to shake hands and so on. So we went that traditional route, and it was good. But after COVID, you had to pivot. You can't
Mhm.
go in person,
Yep.
uh, and a lot of things changed. So what were people doing? They were online, and it took me like a year and a half to actually start posting, and that's when I started posting every single day. I shared jobs on LinkedIn. I shared jobs on other social platforms as well too. I shared that we were hiring as well too, and I kind of just share the process about what I learned and try to provide value there. And after that, in the beginning, I wasn't very successful. I was getting maybe one or two likes and not many people viewing it, but it took months till I started breaking even, getting better at the content as well too, getting more comfortable, and uh, slowly started getting clients inbound. I know they
Mm.
started saying, like, "Hey, like I saw your post. I saw you guys are always hiring for project managers. We're looking for a project manager. Do you have anyone?" And it just kind of started that way, and I realized, wow, this actually does work. It's not right away, but it takes time, and that's how we started getting clients after COVID. COVID, when COVID hit, it kind of opened the door for us. A lot of people suffered and struggled, which they did, but we were able to pick other ways to kind of pivot and get new business as well.
So there's a few things I definitely want to unpack there a little bit. So the first question is, and this may be just more from like, this isn't necessarily specific to recruiting, but it is specific to construction. Do you still see value, or do you still see things like cold calling and cold emailing, cold outreach work within the industry?
So, funny thing, I was actually just talking to another recruitment owner earlier today that back in 2021, back in 2022, uh, cold outreach, sending mass emails, sending mass emails was working. We were able to get clients, we were able to target different people, mass people, because not many companies knew about it. But now in today's age, we're in 2024, even some of 2023, everyone's doing that. So it's harder to get people. The companies are getting smarter as well too. Most of your emails are going to spam now. Most
Mm,
of your cold calls, we have gatekeepers now. So what was working back in 21, 22 is not working now. And a lot of people are struggling, staffing owners and people in the industries as well too. So now what do you have to go back to? You have to go back to the old ways, as possibly targeted messages, but not to
mhm.
100 people, but to 20 people.
Yeah.
Hey, can we go shake hands? Can we go make it more specific as well too? And now what we're doing more, since it's more open, is posting, of course, but going out to meet clients as well. Hey, drop out your resume, drop out your cards. And we've kind of gone backwards from what before, but it's working because no one else is doing it. So it's changed a lot.
Mm.
It's changing over the industry.
Yeah, it's the whole premise of you're zigging when everybody's zagging. Like everybody's doing this, so you're going to go in this way. The contrast will help a lot. And honestly, the reason I ask is, I own my own company doing social media for contractors, and I'm not a sales guy. Like the prospecting stuff is hard for me. Like, when you get discovery and you go through your whole process there, like that gets like that's easier for me. It's just the initial breakthrough. And honestly, that was main reason why I started creating content on social media, because I'm like, man, I wonder if I could get clients through LinkedIn if I post enough valuable content, and that has happened. But it's also too cool to hear somebody like yourself, because yeah, I did listen to you on a different podcast, and just hearing your drive and motivation. You're definitely a competitive individual. Like you definitely want to go out there and make it happen, and do whatever it takes to make it happen. And even hearing the stories, like you'd mentioned, like you and your roommate, you guys lived in one place and just try to live lean and try to make it happen. And so I definitely know that it still works. It's just good for me to hear, like, hear these things, because I think it definitely, marketing is just one part of the equation. There's sales, then there's business development, shaking hands, networking. There's so many things. All of it helps, but you can't, in a sense, the more you diversify yourself, I guess the better chance you have at potentially getting new business.
And it's always changing as well too. You can't expect for this. This was work, especially in the construction industry, because we work with a lot of construction companies and presidents, and people are older, so people are not into technology. People are not, they don't believe in this stuff. But now we're seeing it, and the biggest advantage that we've seen with content as well too. And we hear from our clients now that are doing it, and some that are not. When we send people, we're in the recruiting industry. When we send people over, people first ask us like, "Oh yeah, can you send me the company website? Can you send me some links about them?" And if they don't have it, it's like, "Ah, well, how do I know about the life of them? How do I know about them? What
Mm,
company X has invested in that?" And so, oh yeah, they look like a good company. They have a really good website. I see some of the people posting. I've seen some of them online. It's like, yeah, I'm interested in having a conversation with them. And now it's changed. So now not only are you marketing, but you're also attracting talent to your companies as well too. And that's what construction companies are starting to pick up. But they're still behind. You still get those people that have owned their companies for 35 years and they're stuck in their old ways, and it's hard to change them. But now it's moving. It's moving, I would say.
So, then this is really interesting. Like you mentioning, obviously saying that, PMs or supers, whoever it is you're recruiting for, will ask, "Hey, can you send me information about your client, who you're recruiting for?" I'm curious, is that a part of even maybe your own qualification process for clients that you work with? Do you look for those sort of things? Because I assume having those things probably makes recruiting easier. So I'm curious, like, do you have any of those parameters? You have, hey, this is the type of client that we take on that we want to work with from that standpoint.
Mhm. So it helps when they have all that information, because it makes it easier to sell for a candidate. It's not necessarily a qualification for us. We more qualify clients on all right, what is their company size? Do they have
Mm,
10 employees? Do they have 500 employees? What are their revenues? Do they work on projects that are 2 million to 100 million? If they're over $1 billion projects, they're harder to tackle. They're harder to get into. So we kind of keep away. But When companies are small, and we talk to some companies that have bare and bones websites, but they have people that've been there for 10 plus years, and we
Yeah.
always talk to their owners. It's like, yeah, we offer ESOP, we offer medical, we offer this and that. I'm like, I would have never found that information anywhere. It's like, tell me about your people. It's like, yeah, we take care of our people here. I mean, we have the superintendent's been here for 15 years. This one. We're only hiring because Bob retired, and it's
Mhm.
like, well, shoot, that's great. Well, it makes it hard to sell, but once we tell that to the candidates, it makes it a lot easier. But that's why companies need to start adapting, because there's a lot of great construction companies. They're just not out there, and people don't know about them.
Mm. I'm glad you said that because one of the things I've been thinking about from a social media perspective, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, is I believe that social media is an amplifier of who you are. That's ideally what it should be. Versus, I'm sure you've seen whether it's companies not even related to construction, or content creators or people out there who try to have this persona online, but in reality, that's not who they are when you shake their hand or talk to them, behind closed doors. And so I say that as social media should be an amplifier of who you are. If you invest in your people in that way, if you've had people around in your company for that long, then the reality is like you should be able to showcase, or you should honestly showcase those things on social media, because it's not just limited to the silo of like the people that you one work in house as well as your clients that you're working with, but instead you actually open it up to be like, oh, more people that you never thought you could reach as a result of social media. But I'm curious, like your thoughts. Have you ever seen any of the maybe of the opposite of like any contractors out there who may have and and you can totally answer this or not, but like where you see one thing on social media but maybe it's different when you actually engage with them? Have you ever experienced that or no?
I haven't experienced it yet. I've had some people that I respect it, and we're good on social media, that maybe had some negative comments, and I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, you get all those,
Yeah.
and people that I'm like, okay, well then I dig in a little bit more, and it's just a little bit different. But I haven't really had it too much. I think it's always different when you meet people in person, but overall, I've had good experiences with
Cool.
most of the people that I meet, and typically the people that we're going to meet, or we've batted them, we've talked to them, we've done business with them, or there's going to be prospect business there. So it's been good overall, I would say.
Yeah. So going back to your story, so you mentioned when you first started, you're posting, sharing projects, things like that, and you're getting like 2 likes per post. And honestly, that was me as well. I was posting like 5 days a week,
I
and I was like, getting 2 likes per post. And here's the funny part: is one of the likes per post was my wife. So I'm like, okay, so that one didn't really count because so really I had 0 to 1 likes per post. But my question for you is, considering, because I'm sure you looking at LinkedIn now specifically for like commercial construction, it's very different. There's a lot more creators, a lot more content than before. There's still room for more content as it is, but I'm just curious, back then, what kept you motivated? Because obviously the content game is slow, it takes time, but once you get the snowball effect, it does grow and the ROI for it is insane. But I'm curious, in the early days, what kept you motivated to keep going, and did you want to quit?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, after you've been posting for months and you see no traction, then you're kind of you kind of don't want to keep going. But I know that good things take time. I mean, it's just with business as well too. We launched Tiello in 2019, but prior to that, we had two other failed companies that
Mm,
didn't go as well. I mean, we didn't make money the first 2 years. We made $9,000 the first 2 years. When we were putting thousands of dollars a month, so
wow.
I knew that it was going to take time, but same as creating content. And we had an advisor back then, and he told me a very interesting statistic, which was LinkedIn, only less than 1% of people on LinkedIn are actually posting anything at all on LinkedIn. So if you're posting, you're already in the 1%. And I was like, now imagine if you do this for the next few years. Now it's around like 3 to 4% of people are posting, actually. Still very small. But I was like, wow, that's crazy. So if I just post consistently and keep going, I'm going to be in the 1%. So I just kind of took that to the grade and just started posting. But my content has been changing over the years. First, it
Mhm.
was like, I was doing more recruiting. I was like, all right, well, yeah, I have this company, I have these projects, I have these jobs that I'm working on. Know anyone? Hey, have you heard about this article, new project going on? Now it's pivoted more to recruiting. I want to tell people about the recruiting experience, what to expect coming into the industry, the pains, the struggles, tips and tricks that you're going to learn here in the industry, just because now people see that, and I want to attract people to my company. So now, whenever even I have an interview with people, it's like, yeah, I've seen you online. I've seen some of your posts, and I'm like, well, it makes the sell a lot easier now. So content definitely changes depending on the market and what you're trying to do, but it does help. And I know now. I mean, like, yeah, there was many times where I'm like, shoot, why do I even do this? I got like 3 likes, and two of them were one was my business partner. So yeah.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you said said a lot of those things, because there's definitely I definitely want to unpack some of that, because when I initially followed you, you were posting more content on like the value of people and investing in your people, recruiting, all that sort of geared towards your clients. But I did notice recently, the past few months, maybe it might have been longer, the pivot to actually focusing on recruiters. I definitely want to unpack that a little bit more, because I have been following that and noticing that change, and I'm sure there's maybe more context to that. You've already listed some of it. But you were saying the 1% of people on LinkedIn are posting content, and maybe it has increased to 3-4%. But honestly, knowing especially someone like you as well as myself, we post daily. Like, we're posting content every single day. And honestly, I would say that that group of people is probably the 1% of the 1%. Because
Yeah.
yeah, you may post one, two, three times. Because normally that statistic, I think, is seen from the context of like a 30-day period. If you post a few times in 30 days, great, you're in the 1%, maybe now 3-4%. But if you're posting constantly different types of content every single day, 5 to 7 times a week, I would say that's the anomaly. And it's funny, because I actually had a content creator from Australia. He messaged me and he was like, "Hey man, like, you post all this content all the time. Like, how have you not burnt out?" And it's funny. I told him, I'm like, I almost did. Like, about a month or two ago, I almost just like stopped content completely. I was just so, it kind of felt like I was on this like hamster wheel of like, okay, I have to catch up, think of new ideas, all this sort of like, I love it. I like doing it, but I'm just like tired. And so I
Mhm.
figured a few tweaks, things like that, along the way. But I'm curious, like, from your process for content creation, would you mind sharing, because I assume when you are in the early days, you were probably the one creating the content. But like, what has your process evolved to, from like, if someone were to say, "Hey Dante, what's your overall process for creating content? How do you come up with ideas? How do you create the content, and then how do you go about maybe deploying the content?" Because I have seen other forms of content that you posted in the past. So I'm just curious. Would you mind just sharing what your process is for content creation, what it was back then, and what it's evolved into now?
Yeah, so it's changed a lot over the years. I mean, at the beginning, like I said, it was mostly tailored towards the construction industry. I wanted to get people that would talk to me because I had jobs, companies that the clients as well too, getting new clients and so on. Then it changed more towards attention. You get that. Oh, I got 100 likes because I posted something. Oh, I got 100 likes because because of different things. And I went that way, and I changed recently because I was getting a lot of attention, but it wasn't the attention I wanted. So
Mm.
people that I want to attract are recruiters that are high billers, that are top billers, that are maybe not happy, but maybe they want to pivot and go to an agency that offers more, maybe more commission, more pay, more resources as well too, that we do here at Tiello. And that's what I've been targeting. So like, if I could get 100 people that are just constantly with me, and I could pull maybe one or two of those people every other month or so, like, that's a lot of people that are going to come to my company that are experienced, that know of me, that makes it a lot easier as well too. So that's why I kind of pivoted from putting funny ones or trying to get the thousand likes and lots of comments, lol. Like, I kind of got over it, and I'm like, now it's more recruiting. Like, I want people to know that, hey, I know the struggles. I know you're gonna people that are coming in. I know you're gonna struggle in the recruitment industry, but it's part of it. And I messaged a couple people that are good and that like my things, and now I'm having conversation. And some of them won't jump ship right away, but I already had one that took me 6 months to bring on, and that 6 months, she's killing it now,
Mm.
and I was happy that. And now it's going to be trickling more, because now I'm going to be having one person every other month and one person every month come in, and these people are just people that have been following me, that know who I am, see the type of content I'm posting, and so on. But as far as content and getting creative with that, people think it takes hours. People think you have to hire someone, and sometimes you do, depending on the volume. But for me right now, how I do is every day I have meetings. Every day I go through challenges. Every day I go through different obstacles with my team. And I take notes every single day of the possible pain points, possible things that I could talk about. And every day I have on my I go by my calendar. My calendar is everything. So I put a time slot from 7:30 to 8, and it's like, all right, create a LinkedIn post, and I just think about some of the notes that I have, and I put it together. And yeah, maybe the night before I'm like, oh, that was really good. I should really talk about that. Then I just put it together. The next day I post it. So I try to stay consistent. That 7:30 to 8 is my content. I'm going to put it together and post it up. But it all comes from the different things that I go throughout the week and so on. But it took me a while to master that because some days I was posting in the afternoon, some days I was posting in the morning, and I was just all over the place.
Hopefully, this dispels the notion for all of you that, yeah, creating content is very similar to like going to the gym. It's like, do you want to go to the gym every day? No, but it's good for you. It helps. There's a lot of benefits to it. And same thing with content is like, do you want to do it every day? No, there's probably days where I'm sure you can be honest, Dante. You're like, I don't want to do this today, but you know you have to. Like you committed to this, and you've seen the benefits of it. And I feel like if anything, and probably in those days where you don't want to do it, you just reflect back and look back to be like, okay, look at what this has built a result of me doing this. I need to stay committed, and over time, people will get those wins under their belt. But the other thing though is it's cool to hear that you're creating your own content, because that's not true for everybody. And I don't think ghostwriting or all that sort of stuff is bad per se. I've worked with some clients on that in the past, but it is cool to hear that you're actually the one crafting and actually, creating it yourself. And I just think in general, this is my opinion, is nobody will be able to communicate better on behalf of an executive than an executive themselves. And so it's just cool to hear that you have those rhythms in there, from that standpoint. But and also to the last thing as well is like even hearing the fact that you're taking notes and ideas and like, and just like honestly, just a brain dump of, hey, here's some conversations I had, some ideas I have from a content perspective or something we ran into or things like that. Cause that's exactly how I do it as well. And even sometimes I'll scroll on LinkedIn and be like, I'll hear somebody talk about marketing, and then instantly, instead of commenting on the post, like saying what my opinion, whether I agree or disagree, I'll just be like, hey, here's my take. Like, they set up the topic for me to talk about, but then now I'm going to add my own spin to it.
Okay.
So like outside of you having conversations and whether it's networking or with your team or clients or things like that, are there any other ways that you're getting ideas or trying to feed yourself, and even to outside of construction, like, are there any other creators or people that you follow to just get inspiration for new ideas or new ways of doing stuff?
Uh, I mean, I look around, I scroll on LinkedIn and save stuff that I like from different people as well too. I feel like a lot of people, especially in the recruiting industry, they post more about tips on how to get jobs, tips and to try to help people out, which gets a lot of attention, especially
Yeah.
in the sector right now. And it's popular. They get a lot of likes. They get a lot of things going on for them. But I feel like for me, like what I'm doing with my type of content, there's not really many doing it
Hmm.
yet. I know that people will start picking up. My content is more tailored to my specific people,
Yeah.
which any content or marketing person should be doing. You got to find your market that you want to do. You can't be all over the place. And my market is all right. Well, I want to target recruiters that are good recruiters, and want to make a move to an agency where they could be coached, mentored, and offer the best resources ever. Because I know from having lots of conversations with people that come to our recruitment company, they're not mentored. They're just, hey, here it is, sink or swim, and they're just kind of left alone to
Mm.
kind of do it. We want to offer more of a professional development way of teaching people, helping out people, and obviously if they see me doing it, they want to come in and kind of talk, and it makes it a lot easier as well too. But I mean, I get ideas from some people on LinkedIn. I get ideas from podcasts. I get ideas from just different things that I listen to. I read a lot as well too. So it just kind of depends. But most of the ideas that I get are from my conversations with my recruiters, what pain points, what challenges they're having, and I put it all together and kind of sum it up. And when I'm doing video content, I definitely hire someone to come help me out and hire a crew and everything, which is something I'll be doing more in a couple months. But right now, it's just when running your own company, there's a lot of
Heads
things that
down.
come.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No, yeah, and I think that's good to know that that you've gotten more focused and specific and intentional with your overall strategy. Because even one of the things that you mentioned earlier, this is actually what I want. I wrote it here to ask you because you mentioned it, is going viral. And I had a post for myself, maybe it's almost a year ago now. It'll be a year ago in August because I remember it was around my anniversary with my wife. I had a post
Mhm.
that went viral, almost like 900 likes and tons of comments, all that sort of stuff. And so I'm curious because I'm having a very similar experience to what you're doing now. It's like, okay, cool. The likes are great, the engagement, the notoriety. You're looking like cool and all these sort of things that people are like, oh wow, look at Dante, look at what you guys are doing. But the reality is like going viral doesn't necessarily always move the business forward as it relates to actual whether it's new clients or new employees or like team members from a recruiting standpoint. And so I'm just curious, do you remember what your first post was that kind of gave you that dopamine hit? You're like, "Ooh, I kind of like this." And then kind of allowed for you to go on that season because I remember a lot of your content all the time was honestly just popping off all the time. I'm like, man, what's this guy? Like, he's got the recipe down for viral posts.
Mhm.
But I'm curious, do you remember what that first post, as well as how that influenced your strategy, and then ultimately how you're kind of pivoting away from that now?
Yeah, I mean, the first few posts, I mean, to be more specific, it was, I think I put up, I forget what it was, but it was a funny one about recruiting. It was
Oh,
about
okay.
like a golfer, like Tiger Woods dressed all good, and someone else dressed as bad, like professional recruiter versus contract to hire recruiter, and it got like 1,200 likes, and
Wow.
it got so many people, and it was funny and stuff, and it was good, but that lasted, and I was like, well. One of my mentors told me as well too that I respect is like, well, do you want to be known as the funny guy or do you want to be known as the person that gets business done and
Mm-hmm.
is looking our company? And I was like, oh, you're right. And to your point, as far as going viral, like I won't say any names, but I've had some people that are huge, and one of them asked me for a job like 3 years ago. It's like, hey, like I'm looking to make a move. Like I'm not happy in my agency, blah blah blah. And I was like, honestly, I don't hire anyone that doesn't have construction experience. And they got pissed at me. I'm like, I'm sorry, I just don't. And there's some other ones that are huge on LinkedIn as well too, always going viral, and some of them just got laid off. So it's you just kind of have to hit your your win. What it is. I mean, that's why I say like mine is like I don't really care about going too much viral. I want to go into my pinpoint. And for me, it's like I want to grow my business,
Yep.
and I want to go where people are going to help me build that business. I don't want to go where I'm making people laugh because I'm not here to make people laugh. I'm here for business, and I'm trying
Yep.
to grow my company. So that's what I'm going at. If that means that I'm not going to get 1,000 likes, it's okay. If I get 30, 40 likes, I'm okay with that. But it's 30, 40 people that maybe one I could put into my company maybe next month. Like I'd be more than happy than that.
And you know what's crazy is like, because it feels as though like you're indirectly giving this advice, but I'll say I'll directly give this advice to anybody out there is don't shoot for viral. Viral is not should not be the objective. The objective should be related to the business, whether it's growth of revenue or getting new team members or maybe business opportunities. That should be the focus, and then you should find ways to relate social media back to that. But I say that because I know that everybody's like, okay, yeah, but I get what you're saying, Dante, but I want to go try it. And then they do it, they get the dopamine hit, and then add dopamine hit after dopamine. They just keep doing it, but in a sense they begin to this is what I've realized because I made this mistake as well. Is I'm like, okay, this is getting me exposure. I think there is utility in getting exposure to new audiences, things like that, as a result of it, but that shouldn't be your only strategy. And so the example I always like to use is that post that I mentioned is like, it's like, oh, mine was almost 900 likes. It got all this engagement, all this sort of stuff. Zero clients. Then the next day or two, maybe it might have been the next week, I make a post, gets 10 likes. I get a prospect to reach out that eventually turns into a customer.
Yeah,
It was more focused messaging. This messaging's not for everybody. This is for a specific contractor of a specific size, having specific problems, and these are the problems that I want to help them solve. That
yeah.
resonated far more than this post that it was a meme as well, and it went viral, but it didn't pay the bills at the end of the day. So it's so it's interesting hearing your experience as well.
it happens like that, and it's I think it's more. I think it goes towards business as well too. I mean, the marketing is that, yeah. Do you want to get a lot of people liking it, seeing it, and make people laugh, or like in our business and recruitment, we have more of a tailored approach because we used to go, all right, let's send 1,000 emails this week and let's see what we get. But no, how about let's send 100 emails, but they're
Mm.
targeted
Yep.
to VPs and presidents for underground utility contractors in this specific area. It's
Mm.
like, and now it's more targeted what we do instead of, hey, we're recruitment for, can we help you fill your roles? To 1,000 people. Now it's like, hey, I know you guys are in the Denver area. We work with the underground utility companies that do anything from 5 million to 20 million. I know you guys have this, this, and this. I have a candidate that would be, good for your superintendent role. Are you open to discussing? We've gotten way more bites out of that than sending 1,000 emails, and it's just more targeted. It's more targeted to who you want, and I think you're right. A lot of people get the dopamine feel, and they want to. Oh, I want to see the next one. I want to get the next one. Oh, I saw your post, but I mean, if you want to do that, then that's great. But just know that if you actually want to do marketing and do it more strategically, then focus on that. And I know it's hard, but you have to focus on that because that pays the bills essentially.
Yeah, and unfortunately, some people are going to go out there and bump their heads and get some bruises because they want to go try it. But in a few months, watch this episode again, and you'll hear the same exact story. It's good, and then eventually, like, okay, I need to actually focus on this, and it's basically shifting it from like the shotgun approach of content, like going like this, and instead you're getting a sniper, and you're very very specific about what it is you're trying to get, and it's crazy how much more effective that is, whether it's from a sales like motion, doing outbound outreach, things like that, to even from a content perspective, because the better your messaging, the more clear it is, and even to like the outcomes that you can provide typically will lead to more opportunities for new business and things like that. But so to unpack that a little bit more, I know that you've already alluded to it as well, the results of you creating content, and initially it was clients, to be able to get clients, and then now it's shifted towards recruitment and even recruiting recruiters to your company. Talk me through some of the result. Maybe we could start first with, how long did it take for you creating content when you first started posting? Like you said, a few years ago, you're getting 2 likes per post. How long of that, when you first started, up until you actually maybe landed your first potential lead, and then even to your first customer? And then what was the snowball effect after that as you've continued it?
Yeah. I mean, I think the first 6 months, it was just no traction. I mean, it was just me posting, not really seeing much. But then after like month 8, I believe, I got my first lead, and it was a company out in LA. They were actually next door to our office,
Oh, wow.
but they don't know. I didn't know about that, and they reached out to me via email and said, "Hey, I saw you do recruitment here locally in the area. We have a need. Are you open to? Can you chat?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." Then after that happened, I'm like, "Wow, this one came in," and that one turned into a business as well too. It was a $30,000 placement off just doing that for 8 months. After that, I was like, all right. And not only that, after I knew it started happening, now we have a rule here in our company that you need to post at least 2 times a week on LinkedIn. You need to
Mm.
repost a job or post something on LinkedIn. And I help them out with whatever it needs to go. And we've had lots of our recruiters get inbound leads as well too now that way. Now we don't rely on it, but it does work. And after that, I mean, I would say last year I probably, like, every 4 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, I would get an inbound lead. I mean, even this month, I recruited because the clients reached out to me directly and they wanted me to specifically to
Mhm.
work on it. And I was able to close 2 roles, and that was $50,000 in revenue there. And those two were inbounds. I just had to do recruiting, and those leads, I mean, they send me messages. So it's crazy how it works. Some of the leads now, which I like bringing recruiters now, is that they'll reach out to me and I'll pass them out to our recruiters. So I kind of make my recruiters' life easy, and they love that because it makes their prospecting a lot faster, and they close the business and they make money for the company. So I'm more than happy with that. So now we have a role here within the company: post 2 times a week. One has to be share jobs or whatever it is. The other one has to be more about a recruiting experience or something that you could provide value to the people. And yeah, I mean, I think overall we have like close to like 150 followers. and almost 33,000 followers on our Tiello page. So it's crazy.
Yeah, because like for those of you that don't like I said have never heard of Dante or Tiello, I actually went doing research prior to this, and that's what I noticed when I went to Tiello's like LinkedIn page. You go on the actual company page, and the company has created no content. But what the strategy is resharing the content from all the recruiters, including Dante. And for me, I think that strategy overall is probably the most brilliant because the reality with LinkedIn is the personal brand pages will get far more engagement and results than the company brand because it's hard to figure out, okay, who am I talking to? Like when you see a logo, and it's not a bad thing, but like especially on LinkedIn, it's like, okay, the company, like people, we all have a perception of the company page creating content, and I don't think that's bad by any means, but when you have the founder of the company, the actually both managing partners, then you have a team of recruiters from like the ones that have just started out all the way up to senior roles and maybe director roles, and then you just basically create this like content machine of a company, and you share that, and you always tie it back to Tiello. You not only build those personal brands because you build their authority within the industry, but you also build the company brand because now when I think of Dante, I don't just think of Dante, I think of Tiello. And then even too, when I see other content from your team, I'm like, oh, I think of Tiello. So the brand association, the brand affinity, all that sort of stuff is honestly just being built back to Tiello. But the benefit though too is the individuals are also getting a part of that process, getting a part of that reward. So you mentioned that like you're like helping coaching and mentoring and that sort of stuff. I guess what sort of, if, and this doesn't have to relate to recruiting specifically, but what are some of the tips that you would give from a content creation standpoint, whether it's copywriting or the type of content, things like that? Like, what are some of the things? At least just give us a few nuggets. Obviously, we don't want you to expose your whole strategy, but just give us a feel or a taste of what exactly it is you're advising or some coaching that you provide.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what type of marketing and what your end goal is as well too. But I mean, even for me now, it's like my goal is to grow Tiello, bring in more recruiters that are experienced, and we could provide all the resources for them. So how do I do that? I get the word out. Hey, this is what recruiting is about. This is their challenges. These are the pain points they're going to be looking at when you're in the recruiting industry. And a lot of people agree with it. It's like, yeah, like I've dealt with that. I'm dealing with that. It's like, well, when we talk to them, it's like, yeah, this is how you combat those problems because I know I've been through them, and we have other recruiters within our company that have been through those challenges and pain points, and we've been successful there. We've been, we're innovative, I would say, in that way. So, I mean, I would say, yeah, I mean, just figuring out what you want to do, what type of content you want to do, and start throwing it out there, and um, specific to a target as well too. One thing that I did do that worked out really well in the beginning was set a goal of connecting with people. We have a limit of 100 connections a week,
Mhm.
but I would connect with people within my realm. If I'm going after project managers in Denver, let's say, I'm connected with 50 project managers in Denver. And if I'm connecting with that LA superintendents, I'm connecting with 50 superintendents in LA. And guess what? Those turn into followers as well too now. And now you got a whole bunch of pool of people that are following you, or they see your content that are within your industry as well too. And now I deal with the recruiters. Like, oh shoot, this recruiter has been with this company for 4 years. They're billing, this. Like, I'm gonna connect with them, and now they accept and they see my content now, and I'm not going in with a sales pitch there. Like, after a while they start seeing it, and we end up having a conversation, and those conversations don't turn into come to my company right away, but some do. But now I'm just kind of like putting it there so I can scale it later on. It's going to be more, it's going to be faster. But now I just started doing that like 2 months ago. I mean, I'm already seeing some success, and I'm having like, hey, like, let's connect at the end of the second quarter. Hey, let's connect at the end of this year. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And they're happy at their company, they're doing well, but if once they're not happy, they're coming to me, they're coming with our company, and that's what I'm doing. I'm integrating all those playing parts, so future later on, we could benefit from it.
Man. So the one thing I want to say to you, Dante, is it's awesome to see how intimately you know the intricacies of content creation and LinkedIn and all that sort of stuff. Because everything you're saying is exactly like whether it's through different reasons or different phases of my, journey on LinkedIn and creating content is very similar. And I've actually been doing so when I started posting content like a few years ago, um, I realized I'm like, okay, content is one part of the equation, because yes, you want to create good content, and if you don't create good content, nobody's going to engage with it. But you also want a growing audience as well. Like you want to be able to reach these targeted people. And like I said, for me, this may just be it could be insecurity, maybe lack of confidence in myself, but like the prospecting stuff just makes me just
Yeah.
it just not my cup of tea. I feel like I'm becoming better at it as I've developed more reps, things like that. But I realized that connecting with people, not sending them a message right away, and then just having them see my content and then eventually reaching out down the road has been far more successful, because the reality is like we're all used to the connect and pitch. Like, hey, if I add you right away, then all of a sudden I'm like, hey, Dante, I see that you're a recruiting company. We're a marketing company that Alpha, blah, blah, blah. You're like, I don't care, man. Like I didn't ask for this, whatever. Versus in a sense, I see content creation and connecting with new people as business development, because you're basically like starting a conversation. You don't necessarily have to have them engage with it, but it's as though they're at the same networking event that you're hosting every single day. Other people are engaging, talking, and then eventually they either like and comment to engage, or they'll message you directly. But even one of the things that actually recently started doing as well is just even sending a simple message, because for the longest time, like I said, I just want to not come across as salesy. Like I never want to approach a relationship like, hey, I want something out of this. Like I just see you as a dollar amount or a figure. And so but what I recently started doing is just starting simple conversations, just saying, hey Dante, great to connect, love to see that you're in construction, excited to see the content you post, and that's it. And for the most part, maybe most will ignore that, but one of the things I've noticed is some will respond, especially too, because like when you connect with somebody new, it'll show you their newest post right away.
Yeah.
But then the other thing though is, one of the things I've noticed as well is, people will, I'll go back and I'll see that they saw my message, and then maybe weeks later they end up responding to it, saying, hey Jonathan, great to connect. And now they always say the same thing: I love the content you're posting, all these sort of things. And because the reality is, like, anytime anybody messages you or calls you or tries to do business with you, you're skeptical. You're like, okay, what are you trying to do? But the more and more you build that rapport and all sorts of stuff, it's just crazy to just see that response. But I'm curious, like, yeah, have you kind of mixed? I know that you already alluded to some of those things, but like, have you tested different things like that from a content as well as kind of networking, business development, messaging from a LinkedIn standpoint?
Well, yeah, it's happened like that where I've had people just the same way. I don't send message. I used to, but not anymore. But now it's like I'll connect with people. I won't say anything, but after a while, they'll see the content. It's like, hey, like I could really relate to that. I've been having a struggle. Like love what you're putting out there. And I'm like, hey, yeah, thanks for I know all the struggle pins. Like, how's everything going at your company? And I just started that way. And they're like, yeah, it's going well. They treat me well and everything. It's like, hey, well, you're probably not looking, but if you're ever open to it, we have some people billing, a certain amount, and I want to help and coach as many people as I can and give them the best work-life balance here, and make a lot of money together. So let me know, and people will be like, yeah, let's talk then. But it's less salesy, and they've seen the content after I started posting. We connect there, so it does work. But now what I've been doing, and is which I'm working a lot now too, is giving most of my things away for free and having people have value. So, for example, I had a recruiting manager today that called me. It's like, hey, like we've been struggling with sales. It's like, I just don't know what's working. I was like, hey, like what you're doing right now worked in 21 and 22. Like it's not working out because it wasn't working for us. What we're doing is we're doing this. X, and was like, oh, like I don't know about this. Like, yeah, you have to do it. Guess what? I gave it to him for free, and I sell him for free. But now he's like, yeah, like if I ever know of anyone that's looking to make a move, I'm selling it to you. It's like, yeah, absolutely. But now even with recruiters, like I'm gonna start giving everything away on videos via LinkedIn. And if they could win or close a deal by themselves and say, yeah, like I closed the deal because of what you said there, it's like, yeah, great. Like now imagine if you actually came to our company, how many more deals you could close. So that's going to be my strategy moving forward now is giving more away, providing more value, which makes the sell a lot easier for once when I get more people in here to the company.
And that's what you call playing the long game. That's literally
Mm-hmm.
what that's exactly what it is. And that's one of the because I have my own, approach and strategy. Because even with my content, honestly, like if you ever look, some of my content is opinionated, but some of it is like I'm literally giving you the playbook. This is like if I didn't work with you ever, but you wanted to crush it on social media, here's the playbook that you should use within your company. And the cool part of that is people like seeing that, like especially if it's really valuable content that other people aren't posting. They're like, oh wow, like that just builds authority for you within the industry to be like, oh wow, this is like one of the leaders in the space here. But the other thing, though, the other reality, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, is when you give somebody something for free, and if it's really good content or value and information, all that sort of stuff, 99% of people won't act on that information. Like people won't, it's because they'll see the depth of, oh, this is everything that it takes. This is what it looks like. This is I have to do it. Like you literally gave me exactly the plan. You just got to plug
Yeah.
and play it. But then they see the amount of work and things like that. They're like, you know what, Dante, instead of me handling myself, I'm just going to hire a company to do it for me. So I'm just curious if you've seen or experienced that as well, just like from giving free value and advice, high level things to people.
I mean, it has happened and it will happen. I mean, 99% of people, I mean, even with our company, you'll have people like, well, if you want to get clients, you have to do this, this, and this. And it's like, all right, well, all right, how do I do that? You do it this way. And some people still don't do it. That's why you're not being successful. I mean, we're essentially giving you the playbook, but yeah, I mean, I guess you just have to talk to the right people. And I mean, if you talk to five and only two people acted on it, well, I always have this rule. Well, talk to 50 people. Now you got 10, more than 10 people that are going to act on it. You're making more money. Sometimes everything's more volume, but you have to be strategic about it. See what's working, and if your strategy is working there, I mean, we have some recruiters that are closing deals, some good deals, and out of nowhere they're like, "Yeah, I think I should tackle this market now." I'm like, "Why do you want to tackle that market now?" It's like you're doing well in this market. Expand on it. Like, don't
Yep.
get fancy. Stick to the simple.
Yep.
It always happens that way. They see something shiny and they want to chase it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that happens to all of us as humans, in a multitude of ways. But I mean, whether it's from Dante's experience or even to my, lessons learned as well, just getting distracted. And I'm like, no, no, no. Focus, keeping things simple, scales faster, scales better, is easier to manage versus, there's a saying, it's like the man that chases two rabbits catches none. And so
Yeah.
if you disperse your focus, it's just gonna be you're gonna be giving 25% here, 25, like, so no, it's like no, focus, keep it simple. From that
And,
standpoint, go ahead.
and it takes time, to be honest. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember when you started posting first. I was like, "Oh, this is good content," but you're not getting much traction. I'm like, "You're going to get traction in a few months. Just keep stick at it." And you did. I mean, I was impressed because I was in the same shoe. I was like, "Oh, there's good value here, but not many people know about you." It's like you're going to get some people later on, and now you've grown a lot.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate the feedback, and it means a lot. And even too, like that's one of the things is at a minimum, especially for those that are like on the fence of like starting creating content. If you can look at your own content and be like, and because like this is what I'll do is I'll write the content and then I'll go edit it, make sure it's all polished, whatever. And then I don't post the content right away. I give myself a little margin, but I'll sit on it and then I'll come back and read it again. And I'm like, if I'm still as excited, I'm like, I know I have something here. And I think that's always a good gauge is like, if you weren't if you weren't the one creating the content, but you were to consume this, would you actually get value from this? And I feel like that's the parameter in which I take it on. So I'm obviously really hypercritical of myself and my content consistently, but I think as a result, that's helped me. And so I say that for people that may be out there, because there honestly are people out there who are smaller creators right now who are creating really valuable content. I'm like, no, just give this time. Like if you're creating good content to the right people, the right audience, it's only going to grow. And I've experienced that myself, but it does take time. And I feel like it's that gap between like you feel like you're creating really good content and it's just not the results aren't there. It's like you just got to stick enough through that because eventually that curve will begin to hit
Yeah.
up and start growing up from there.
And you only get better as well too. I mean, I look at some of the content I was doing 2 3 years ago. I was like, wow, this is really bad, but you evolve from it and you kind of learn from it. All right, well, I'm getting better. This was good. I'm gonna talk more about this. This wasn't really that good. I might have to switch into something else as well too. So you just kind of evolve and get better over time.
So before I asked like the because I know we're getting ready to close out this conversation today, and feel free to not answer this if there's something in the works or in the queue. But when I noticed you post because like I said, I noticed it switched from focusing on content for recruiting content for contractors, and now it's like content specifically targeted towards recruiters. I know that you already mentioned you're hyper focused and you want to keep things simple. You want to continue to grow Tiello, but part of the content that I've seen in your approach, my perception, this is just me, and I may be speculating, and I don't want to reveal anything, but it also seems like there may be room down the line for you to eventually do like coaching and consulting for recruiters as well, help them improve. And so I'm curious, I may be stepping my bounds, but is that something you see down the line and maybe as an opportunity down the road? And like I said, feel free to just tell me to F off and not answer.
Course. No, no, I'm glad you asked that. Me and my business partner have been working on something for 8 months, and it's been taking us longer than I expected. But it's a company called Recruiter Careers, and it's basically an
Mm,
academy for people to. So in recruiting, there's not really a way to become a recruiter. People just hey, like you network, or you maybe just jump in and try it out. So and a lot of people fail in this industry. It's just sink or
mhm,
swim. What we're creating is an academy. Basically, we give everything away for free on how to become an agency recruiter, how to become a six-figure recruiter, make six figures your first year, and so beyond. And we're creating that so we can help people get more into the recruiting industry and fix the recruiting industry as well too, because there's
mm,
just a lot of things that go wrong and a lot of bad practices that are in the recruiting industry. So we want to help fix that, help people become better billers. So we are working on that, and this is why our content is more towards recruiting now. And we're going to be giving more away for free, and we want people to sign up for this and eventually become recruiters either with us or become recruiters at other agencies, or recruiters that are already recruiters and we provide enough value for them to learn and actually make money out of it or do better. I want them to come to us, and possibly we could offer some coaching as well too. But essentially, come to Tiello. We'll give you all the resources because we provide a lot of resources, and I'm a big believer in investing not only in marketing tools but in resources to help recruiters become the best recruiters ever. And we've been successful, and that's why recruiters are billing more and they're making more. So everyone's kind of happy here. So that's the goal right now, but it's just it's a lot of work that it's taken to build that company. But priority right now is Tiello.
So is this public? This is public or already going to be public, or have you mentioned anything about this, or is it still kind of behind the scenes?
Yeah, it's behind the scenes. I mean, this is the first time it should come out here in the next few weeks, but yeah, it's the first time I mention it.
Okay, yeah, because luckily this podcast won't come out for a few weeks or maybe a month from now, so at least that'll be good. But that's awesome. You heard it first here, guys. And I'm glad that my perception, because I'm like, I wonder what Dante's up to. I'm like, I noticed a switch, and so the reason I say that is one of the coolest things for me from a social media organic marketing perspective is if you build distribution channels, you can do whatever the heck you want with it after. And so the example I like to use a lot is Mr. Beast. Like he obviously is a huge content creator. Obviously, he's more broad entertainment. But what he's done now is he has this distribution channel. So whatever he creates or new businesses, all these sort of things, he can because he has the attention. And I think that's the coolest part, whether it's marketing for your own company or even building your own personal brand, is it gives you the power to build distribution. That way, eventually down the line, maybe it is 10, 15 years from now, Dante, you decide to pivot and do something bigger or something, different. You still have this pool of people that you have reached to on a consistent basis. So I'm just curious, like, yeah, what your thoughts are just from the impact as it relates to, as we're closing out this conversation of building a personal brand, the benefits it has, the impact that it could potentially have, whether it's with Tiello, this next company, and also to just other ventures down the road. Just curious, yeah, just final thoughts on this, just as a whole, what it's opened for you in your own career.
Yeah, no, no, absolutely. I mean, I think right now, we'll be an eight-figure company by the end of next year, so that'll be huge. And with the growing our personal brand as well too, eventually when I want to either acquire or build other recruiting companies as well too, maybe in a IT or finance department, they'll kind of see my personal brand that I've been doing it for years. I built this company; it's out there. So selling it to other people is like, hey, like I'll help you grow your recruiting company in this sector. I've done it here. This is what I've done. They see me online. It's like, oh yeah, I actually seen you online. It just makes it a lot easier. But that would have not happened if I haven't been doing this for the last 5 years and putting myself out there and just throwing content, but also growing my company, because people will see that I've been growing my company, but also been growing my personal brand, which just makes it a lot easier now. So whenever I want to sell it to other people, it's like, hey, yeah, I know you got your company, you're around 5 people, you want to grow it to 20 people. Like, I've done it. This is who I am. This is what I do. I know all the pains and challenges you've been through and you're going to go through, but I can make it go faster, like, because I know how to do it. And it'll be like, yeah, let's do it. So that's my hope in the way it goes. But first, I gotta, keep up the personal brand, keep up growing it, and eventually it'll just kind of do the work for me.
Brother, I'm pumped for you, man. Like, just seeing your growth from an external standpoint, hearing about it more now. How you're saying, 8-figure company eventually, and then starting this other recruiting company. Like, because the especially too, like knowing that the reality is like people what they see on the outside, they see okay, Dante and Tiello, they're successful, but you started the conversation by saying we had two failed businesses, so it's not like it's always been perfect. No, but you've learned and you haven't given up and you've just built from there. And I think the coolest part to see with your specific story is, you've grown your company as obviously on the backs of your hard work and business acumen that you've developed, but also too understanding that where the puck is moving as it relates to attention, social media, marketing, all these different things, and using that to your advantage. Whereas now, when you start this next company, recruiting careers, I would say it's probably going to be a lot easier because the playbook, you have the attention, and so if anything, this will probably grow faster, and who knows, potentially maybe even bigger than Tiello, considering it's more broad reaching, all that sort of stuff. So, and even through hearing the fact that maybe acquisitions, things like that, as a result, honestly, all this stuff is just getting my mind rolling. I'm like, man, Dante is gonna crush it. So yeah, I just want to say congratulations, man. I appreciate you coming on the podcast. It's really good to know you and support you and see all the content you're creating, man. Because I definitely think it is making a huge impact, and it has been a huge inspiration for me, and I'm sure countless others. So yeah, thanks for coming on the podcast. Before we close it out, though, is there any last things you want to plug as it relates to maybe people that may have more questions about you, Tiello, or other things that you're doing, and just any final thoughts as it relates to the conversation we had today?
No, I mean, I'm just, if you're looking to start content and doing something that's scary and you're going to be judged and you're going to feel like people are going to be talking about you, looking at him, and it's going to happen. But, if you stick with it and if it works, you're going to do well and they're going to be asking you for help, how you did it and everything. And it's going to suck in the beginning, but after a while, it gets better, it gets easier, and, you'll see success there. So just get started.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're not doing it already, go and follow Dante on LinkedIn and just get ready to see obviously tons of helpful content about recruiting. But the cool part too is like I also like see how you structure your content. Like I study anybody that I think creates really good content. I'll study. I'll be, and that's what I was saying. Like I noticed your patterns, how they change. So that's why I wanted to ask that question. But if you guys want inspiration for really good content, go follow Dante on LinkedIn. Obviously, go check out Tiello if you guys need help with recruiting. And yeah, thanks again, Dante, for coming on the pod and really unpacking and being just super transparent and vulnerable with the audience about content creation.
Yeah, let's see where we're at here in a few years.